Welcome along to the Man in the Mirror podcast. It's Hayden Williams here. And Man in the Mirror is a podcast where each week I talk to a male guest about self-care, self-image, grooming. We talk life, work, and what the guest really thinks about the man who looks back at him in the mirror. Now, this week, my guest is Chris Wyatt, who is the Vice President of Global Education for Jo Malone London. Chris invited me to the Jo Malone townhouse to do the interview today. And the townhouse is in central London, here in the UK, and it's a beautiful space. I mean, it's one of the Jo Malone London offices, but also acts as a showcase for the brand. And as you might imagine, exquisitely done, beautiful taste. It has some great rooms, luckily, for us to chat. So we're in this gorgeous room that had this huge fireplace, and I felt very lucky to get to see that space today, and it was a good location for us to chat. And it's always so much better to do it in person. So it was fantastic to meet Chris and to find out more about what his role entails as the Vice President of Global Education, which he'll tell me much more about. But I guess it's about making sure that the sales teams all around the world are inspired and know about the current product range and make it a great experience for customers. And Chris has worked for Jo Malone London for a long time and knows the brand inside out. So it was fantastic to get his insight into all things Jo Malone London. And if anybody follows my You Smell Great, What Is It Instagram channel, they'll know what a fan of Jo Malone London I am. So it was a real treat to get to meet Chris and hear all about it. And we'll talk about the training, we'll talk about the brand, we'll talk about some of the products that, whilst, of course, they're all unisex, some of the products that work particularly well for men. And we'll talk Christmas. Now we're in November. I guess it's time to talk gifting and Christmas. So sit back, enjoy. It's Chris Wyatt, the Vice President of Global Education for Jo Malone London, talking to me, Hayden Williams, on Man in the Mirror. Let's go. Welcome along to Man in the Mirror. It's Hayden here, and I'm in London's Mayfair, and I'm at the Jo Malone townhouse with Chris Wyatt, who's the VP of Global Education for Jo Malone London. Hi, Chris.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm really well. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Nice to see you.
Yeah, it's nice to be here. What a lovely location.
We're in the Jo Malone London townhouse.
Yeah.
And this is 52 Gloucester Place. It's the home of the brand. We're sat on the first floor in the drawing room.
And it's a beautiful drawing room with, of course, products scattered around the room. There's candles, and downstairs they're setting up, because it's early November, so they're setting up for Christmas. But yeah, it's a beautiful space, and I guess you get to kind of show the best of the brand here as well as using it as a workspace, yeah?
We really do. It's a 200-year-old Georgian townhouse, and you get to come and work in here every day. I mean, it's a really beautiful space. We're very lucky to be in here.
And I just think, for a brand that's about, obviously fragrance and lifestyle and home fragrance, how brilliant. I came here actually a few weeks ago for a breakfast. They were launching the Christmas range with Gingerbread. It was beautiful. But yeah, to have this sort of real life, three-dimensional space where people can come in and experience the brand is great, isn't it? What a privilege.
It is. It's a beautiful space. Very lucky to get to work here and get to call this home every day.
Yeah. And so, Chris, it'd be great to find out a bit more about you, obviously, as we do on the podcast. And I wonder, did your interest in this world of fragrance and home fragrance and things like that, did it start in sort of younger days?
Yeah, very much so.
Did it?
I've always loved fragrance. One of my earliest memories is not necessarily perfume, but smells. And I think smell is so closely linked to memory and emotion.
Absolutely.
A smell can take you back somewhere instantly. So I've always had this kind of passion for scent and passion for smells.
Yeah.
In fact, I think one of my earliest, I'd say, scented memories is baking jam tarts with my grandma. I was about 5 years old.
Yeah.
And every time I smell a fragrance with any kind of vanilla in it, I don't care what the fragrance is. I'm a 5-year-old kid again with my nan.
Yeah.
And it's really,
takes you right back there.
Oh my God, absolutely takes me right back there. And then the world of fragrance is something I've always been interested in, like since I was a teenager. Probably not the nicest fragrances.
And what were your sort of teenage scents that you kind of wore for a night out? Can you remember?
Oh God, probably in my late teens, my formative adult years, I would say, when I was 18, I used to wear Issey Miyake
Nice.
Loved
That was a really popular one, wasn't it?
super, super popular. And it always takes me back to getting the train to London to come out with friends on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
I used to wear Youp, which was a very, very ill dupe, however you pronounce it.
Yeah, you took me by surprise. I thought I said dupe. Is that wrong? Was it Youp?
Well, I mean,
Where's it from?
It was a guy called Wolfgang Youp that.
Oh, there you go.
So
There you go.
I think it was named after him. But
I was saying it wrong all these years.
the scent was super intense. But they actually did another fragrance called. They did 2 fragrances, All About Eve and What About Adam, and
Right.
that fragrance. Loved that fragrance as well.
Was your route in through retail, or how did you get into this world?
How did I get into the world of fragrance and what I do now? So I had a Saturday job in a Debenhams store when I was 16.
Where was that?
Shop. Debenhams Reading.
Yes.
Many, many years ago. And then I actually left that and I went to work for a civil engineers, not building anything.
Yeah.
Wouldn't let me build a single thing. But I was
Were you in the office?
Yeah, I was an office junior, basically making...
Using your hands.
Typing. We were going back a long time. We're going back over 20 years. But then I came back to that Debenhams store and I worked behind the Calvin Klein counter when they launched CKB. That was one of my first full-time jobs in fragrance. And I went to work for, it was a company called Prestige and Collections as a account manager in...
Was that like a distributor?
Yeah. So they were the distributor for brands like Ralph Lauren, Cacharel, Paloma Picasso, Armani. They distributed all of those fragrances, and that's where I really fell in love with fragrance. I got sent on a training for Guerlain, actually, when Guerlain launched a fragrance called Champs-Élysées with Roger Dove, who's a bit of a legend.
Yes.
Fragrance world.
Yeah.
And the way that man told stories about fragrance it mesmerised me.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to learn how to do that. So I worked in fragrance for a while, and then I actually got a job with Estée Lauder as a beauty advisor. Worked there for a short amount of time.
Was that sort of in...
Still in Reading.
Okay.
This was when, do you remember, I don't know whether you remember, but a shopping centre called the Oracle Centre in Reading.
I do, yeah. I grew up not that far away in Camberley, so...
Know it well.
Yeah.
Know it well.
It's only M3.
Yeah, just down the road.
Yeah.
So I went to work for Estée Lauder, and then I went to work for Aveda as a business manager for Aveda in Reading, and did a few jobs with Aveda, and then stepped into the world of education for Aveda as a regional education manager covering someone's maternity cover. I didn't know the first thing about education in retail. I just knew that I could connect with people and talk.
Yeah.
And I knew how to sell product.
Yeah.
So I took on this challenge and ended up staying in that role for a few years.
What does it mean, Chris? Just so I understand, actually, but for listeners, we talk about education, but is it akin to training, or how do you see it?
It's very much kind of training and development of people that work in stores.
Got you.
That's the primary bulk of the role that I facilitate, that I sit in. So it's really helping people in stores understand who the brand is, understand how to talk to our products, make them feel connected and motivated by the brand, and essentially help them create really good experiences for people that come and shop in our stores.
Yeah.
So that's kind of in a nutshell, if you had to put it in one sentence.
Got you. And then when did you end up at Jo Malone London?
2010, so nearly 14 years ago.
Wow.
So, worked for Estée Lauder for 23 years now. I had a little 7-year stint in makeup at MAC Cosmetics. And then
And was that a training as well?
That was training. So it's always been in training, it's always been in training. Yeah. And then I came to Jo Malone London 13 years ago, and it's been a journey, that's for sure. It's been an incredible journey working on this brand.
So I guess, with that amount of experience with the brand, you must have a sort of encyclopedic knowledge of the products, and
I hope so. I would say my team have probably got a little bit more of a deeper knowledge of the products today than I have, because they're very much involved in the detail of the development of all of the education materials that we develop for our team.
Yeah.
But it's a great brand to be part of.
I bet, and I always find it really interesting, people who work in these kind of roles and end up in brands, the fact that you've spent time in retail, so important, isn't it, to understand what the customer actually wants. That sometimes there can be these kind of these ideas or these products, you think, I just can't quite see it, or I don't know who that's aimed at. But from being on the shop floor and having that interaction with real life customers and knowing what their sort of pain points are, or knowing what things get them excited, that must have really helped you inform this role and your journey as an educator.
I think so. I think if you look at it, like, brands always do a lot of market research, and rightly so, want to understand who the customer is, what they're looking for. But I think the best market research you can do is go and spend a day in store talking to people who are buying your product. I think having that connection with people that do that every single day gives anyone that works in a training function a different perspective on how to speak to a brand and how to speak to customers.
Yeah, absolutely. And now the role is a global one.
It is.
So that means you look after the sort of education function for the whole world.
Yeah, so my team that sit in London develop all of our education materials for I think it's 72 countries or thereabouts that we retail in now. And then we have teams of people that work in different regions that support our different markets. But yeah, it's very much a global role. So it gives you a lot of challenges in terms of making things relevant for all of the different types of customers shopping.
Because there'll be sort of cultural nuances, presumably, and different products that work better in different places.
Yes, different trends in different regions of the world, ways that interact with brands are slightly different from country to country, but the essence of the brand always remains true. Like the story that we tell of who we are as a brand is something that I think people fall in love with when they buy into Jo Malone London. So we have to make sure that people in store are able to understand this brand and then humanize the language, turn it into something that you would say to someone when you're speaking to them in a way that's relevant to you and the customer that you got in front of you.
It's so important, isn't it? And we talked a little bit before we started about, as a man sort of entering any of these kind of shops, what role do you think the sales assistants can have in making men feel comfortable in Jo Malone and sort of helping them kind of explore the range and find out what works for them? Because it can feel intimidating, can't it?
It can. I mean, you walk into a store and there's a lot of fragrances to look at. So you instantly think to yourself, where do I start?
Yeah.
So I think our employees, we call them stylists or storytellers. They're the best storytellers that we have.
Yeah.
Are there to help you make a connection and help you find something that's right for you. I mean, a lot of people don't necessarily realise that the brand is and always has been a brand that sees fragrance as unisex.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important.
Definitely. So there's nothing that's off limits when you go in. It's not like you're, I don't know, if you're a guy, you're at a certain makeup counter and you obviously there's makeup for men and stuff, but you think certain things aren't for you. But yeah, nothing's off limits, right?
Nothing at all. And I think if you look at where fragrance dates back to, fragrance has always been a unisex offering.
Yeah.
It's been a unisex concept. It's kind of modern marketing over the years that's made us think that flowers are more feminine or woods are more masculine. But I think there's a huge trend at the moment for men to buy into fragrances that they like.
Yeah.
There's not necessarily any rules around what you should and shouldn't be wearing. The beauty of our brand, the beauty of Jo Malone London is you've got a range of several different fragrances that are relevant for everybody, but we're just starting to look at those fragrances that men tend to gravitate towards more naturally and help men understand that these fragrances are for them. So there's some great fragrances that we have in the brand that have a slightly more masculine tone in their kind of olfactive profile.
Yeah.
But they're ideal for men. So we can get into those and talk about that.
Definitely. And we'd talk about that in a bit later. But I think it is interesting, isn't it? Because actually everything can work for both genders, but I suppose it's that thing of your retail staff kind of helping guide men along the way and say, and sort of narrow down things that they like, I suppose.
Yeah, and I mean, we do that for you already. Like if you look on our website, you can see that you can find fragrances that men prefer. We've done collaborations in the past with people like Huntsman, that Taylor from Savile Row.
They're so good. That range is great.
4 fragrances that are all masculine in their tone. They're great fragrances, but we have one signature fragrance that we feel is the perfect fragrance for men if you want to dive into the brand, and that's a fragrance called Cypress and Grapevine. It's an incredible scent. I don't know whether you've seen it.
I have smelled that. It is a really good one. I mean, I think that there's so many of the Jo Malone ones that I love and work for me. I love Assam and Grapefruit from that Huntsman range, and there's the English Oak and Hazelnut.
English Oak and Hazelnut's got a beautiful roasted oak extract in it that is just incredible. And that green hazel note gives it this kind of verdant quality that makes it feel super, super masculine.
Yeah. And even, I guess, some of the classics like lime, basil and mandarin. I mean, that kind of spritzy, fresh brightness is going to work.
Anything that's a citrus fragrance, men tend to love because it's got that energizing, clean, crisp scent.
Yeah.
Things like Cypress and Grapevine are just, for me, I'm wearing it today. I love it.
And there was, I last year went along to, or maybe it was early, God, I think it was earlier this year, the relaunch of that range that was more, the Cologne was more intense, exactly. And there's like Myrrh and Tonka.
Myrrh and Tonka, Oud and Bergamot, Cypress and Grapevine, all fragrances that have kind of deeper resinous notes in the base, but have something that's kind of fresh and gives crispness and clarity in the top, which makes them ideal for men.
And they've worked really well, haven't they?
Oh my God, incredibly so, incredibly so.
Well, look, we're going to talk a bit more about the range later, but as always, I'm interested in your own sort of routines and products that you use. I wonder what you use in your morning routine, Chris.
I mean, how long have we got to talk about this? Because I've always been interested in fragrance, but I've always been interested in skincare as well. But if I was looking at my morning routine, my skincare routine in the morning, I try and keep it super simple morning to make it easy and to make sure I stick to it, because
that's important, isn't it? It's just something that you can actually keep going with. Yeah,
I always oversleep, so I need something quickly in the shower. So I use a, do you know The Ordinary?
Yes.
I use The Ordinary foaming gel cleanser.
Right. They're really good value, aren't they, that range?
God, incredibly so.
Compared to, with the quality of the ingredients that are in that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible product. And that cleanser, I find it gives me like a fresh face to start with, because I have really oily skin.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing, because I think it kind of keeps you young looking. It keeps you young looking for longer, but it can be challenging, and she starts to get a bit shiny throughout the day. Yeah. So I find my skin gets quite dull as well, and I look quite tired. So I actually use the La Mer, I need to get the name right of it, the La Mer Micropeel Essence. It's like a serum exfoliator.
Okay. You can use that every day?
I use it in the morning, and then I put a moisturiser on top of it. So I use a La Mer moisturiser. I tend to use, they've got a gel cream, a cooling gel cream.
Yeah.
So
that's beautiful stuff.
Have you tried it?
I haven't tried the gel cream, but I know some of the La Mer products. And
it just kind of cools your skin down as well, which is nice, because I sometimes get a bit red.
Yeah.
And then I use an SPF on top of it. I've always used an SPF since I was, it was about 20. So.
Have you? Well, that's good. Yeah, I'm kind of late to this, but I'm glad I'm doing it now.
Yeah, I tend to use an SPF 50 every day. Clinique do a really good SPF 50. You just whack on and then you're good to go. And it starts me looking shiny throughout the day.
So have you found one that doesn't give you... Because I started using SPF, and I found that sometimes I was just ending up, because I'm quite oily as well, ending up looking more greasy at the end of it. But I found one that's kind of La Roche-Posay, one with sort of oil control, which was great, and that was a bit of a revelation. But is the one that you use kind of doesn't give you any more shine?
No, not at all. I just find it's got like almost like a beigey kind of tin. It's not like a coloured product, but it almost looks a little bit beigey. And then when you put it on, it kind of mattifies the skin and doesn't reflect any light on your face, so you don't look as though you're super, super shiny, which is great. And then at night, I just add in, Advanced Night Repair. Yes, Estée Lauder. Best serum ever. Used that since I worked for Estée Lauder years ago. It's a great product. So I add that into my routine at night with an oil. Funnily enough, I use an oil before I sleep. Yeah, so
I don't mind so much at night, because then it's...
Well, no one's going to see me. It doesn't matter whether I look shiny or not. No one's going to see me. But yeah, I love skincare. And then from a fragrance perspective, I know it sounds boring when I've got this world...
the world
I can use.
Yeah.
But I always use a shower gel called Earl Grey and Cucumber, which is one of our fragrances, and use that. I love it. Yeah. Refreshing. I put it in the shower first thing in the morning, and then with my fragrance, I really tend to...
You mix it up?
It depends on my mood,
Yeah.
Depends on my mood, what I'm wearing, what I want to smell like, who I'm meeting. I tend to mix up my fragrance for all of those things.
So now if it's early November, getting... Well, at the moment it's horribly rainy, but it's it's getting colder. What did you go for today?
So you mentioned Myrrh and Tonka.
Yes.
Love that fragrance as a base, because it's got this creamy, rich, almost gourmand vanilla note. I mentioned vanilla earlier, so love it. But today I actually went for Violet and Amber Absolu, which is...
Oh, I don't know that one.
It's a fragrance that we made... I forget how many years ago we made that fragrance, but it was designed with kind of Middle Eastern inspired ingredients. Right. It's got this beautiful violet note in it with a rich, deep amber. And I've spritched my Cypress and Grapevine on top of that, just to...
a little bit of layering.
Yeah, a little bit of fragrance layering and customization, just to soften the femininity of the violet and amber. I find layering Cypress and Grapevine on top of it gives me a fragrance that kind of uniquely me,
Nice.
Create something that smells like me.
Yeah.
A bit of a twist.
I should embrace the layering thing. I always get a bit nervous don't know, this thing of, I'm going to get it wrong or I'm going to create some unholy mess. Yeah. But as you see, you just try it out and just find something that works.
Like so many brands are talking about scent layering.
Yeah.
We've always spoken about it since we started the brand.
And do you find that anything can go with anything in terms of Jo Malone?
We actually design our fragrances like that.
Do you?
So every scent we design is designed to be layered on top of each other. Yes, there are some that work better with each other than others, but you're not really going to make a mistake if you want to experiment with customizing your scent. And I think the beauty of it is everybody wants to smell unique.
Yeah.
When I started in fragrance, it was kind of CK1 and CKB. CK1 was the scent of the 90s.
Oh my God, totally.
Everybody smelled like.
Yeah.
Now people want to smell a little bit more unique and kind of express their personality through fragrance.
Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of our senses. They allow you to do that. It's just experimentation.
Which answer my own question in that, it's fragrance. Like there's what's the worst that can happen? It's like, it doesn't matter. I don't know. I should get more involved. I shall try layering some more Jo Malone products. And what about the grooming side, Chris? Do you leave a bit of stubble there? What do you do with shaving?
I look about. I mean, I don't. Sounds big-headed, but I don't think I look my age anyway. I look about 12 when I shave. But the problem is I can't actually grow a beard. I've got
So is it patchy?
It's a little bit patchy, so I just have a little bit of stubble. So I've got one of those, just the Philips blade things that I use at home just to trim down my beard every couple of weeks. I need to do it. I don't need to do it any more than that. But I like it because it
suits you though.
Thank you. But I find it adds a bit of, sometimes when you're fresh shaven, my face looks a little bit round.
Yeah.
I find adding just that little bit of shade.
I don't think so. For me, definitely the beard is sort of covering a multitude of sins. Something about it all gives a bit of shape, doesn't it?
It kind of pushes your chin up a little bit.
Yeah. And do you have certain things you put in your hair?
Yes, I do. So I've recently grown my hair. I had an accident in lockdown. My husband was cutting my hair for me and slipped with a razor, so I had to shave my head.
Did you go full crew cut?
Shaved head. It looked.
How did that go? Do you like it?
I kept it for a while because it was easy, but I wouldn't say I liked it. So I've been growing.
You've got a good shaped head underneath the hair.
I mean, I would argue that. But I've been growing my hair since January. So yeah, there's quite a few products that I put in my hair. I use got quite fine hair. And if I wash it every single day, I wash it every second or third day. Because if I wash it every day, super fluffy.
Yeah.
So I use it's almost like a powder.
Oh, okay.
From KMS. I use a KMS powder just to make it feel dirty.
Yeah.
Sounds weird.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
To make it feel dirty.
Yeah. You don't want it to be sort of fly away.
No, not at all. And then I use just like a wax from Bumble and Bumble.
Okay.
Called Sumotec, which just put a little bit of that in damp hair and then just leave my hair and I like the way that it looks. It just stops it looking kind of fluffy, but doesn't look too sometimes you look like you've got hair like a stick where you put too much product.
Yeah.
I don't like my hair to look like that.
And how often would you go to the hairdressers?
How often do I go to the hairdressers to get it cut? Probably every 3 months at the moment. I go and get it cut.
Is there a certain place you like to go?
My friend actually comes.
Oh, does he?
Does it for me. He comes around my house and does it for me.
Oh, that's good.
He does a colour in it as well if I want. So. Yeah, but if not, there's unavailable salon on Holborn that's a really good salon. There's some really good stylists in there. But a bit of a trip into town because I live out of town and I don't get my hair cut when I'm at work. So do it on my day off.
So, and obviously we're now in November. It's coming up. We've got through Halloween. Yeah, when this comes out, I think Halloween will have gone.
Yeah,
we've got fireworks, and then I think we can officially feel excited and Christmassy. So what's Jo Malone got for us this year? I mean, I saw a giant gingerbread man. Yeah.
Oh, we've gone full on.
It's so amazing, and it makes you feel so Christmassy.
Ginger and
fairy tale kind of thing.
Gingerbread land is the inspiration for Christmas for us this year. Every year, I mean, everything we do has a story behind it, but every year we have a huge story for Christmas, and this year's all about all things like Christmas spices like ginger and nutmeg and all those kind of spices that you'd find in...
The cologne's great though, isn't it?
The ginger biscuit cologne.
Yeah.
Have you tried it?
Yeah, I have.
It's so good.
And it's not over... Because I guess you don't want to sort of go around smelling of
gingerbread.
Of gingerbread or, too kind of sugary and icing sugary, but it's not as sweet as perhaps it might sound.
No, I mean, it's not. It's almost got this caramelized buttery note in it that makes it... whenever I wear it, I just constantly smell it myself. It's one of those things.
Eat your hand.
Exactly. Or lick yourself. I just love the smell of it. But it's one of our Christmas heroes. So we bring some scents back every year. There's excitement around them. So that's a great gift. It comes in a home candle as well that you should try.
Yeah.
We bring back things like pine and eucalyptus at Christmas that smells like Christmas morning.
Yeah.
So got every gifting option covered for Christmas. There's some great gifts if you go and...
So it's all in store now, I guess.
Very much so. It's been in store for a few weeks, and the return of the Jo Malone London Advent Calendar, which, in my opinion, is the best Advent calendar out there. But I would say
there's some competition now, isn't there? It's become over the last few years a really big thing. Like all the big beauty brands are sort of in that space of beautiful little things.
Hugely so. And I mean, we do a great job every year of creating this beautiful stage for the products to sit in with the Advent calendar. And it's a beautiful Advent calendar this year. And I've already had my mother-in-law asking me for it.
And so talking about the retail experience, which, is a big part of what you do, I wonder how, that sense of sort of theatre, now brands are about, immersing yourself in the brand when you go in the store. Is there a challenge in trying to sort of, if you can't get to a store and you like to shop online, is there a challenge, do you think, with beautiful gifts and in this world that's so tactile and olfactive and beautiful? How does that work with the site, do you think?
I think that's a very good point. I mean, we can't smell anything online yet. Yeah. Who knows? One day maybe there'll be...
AI will get onto it at some point.
We'll figure something out. But I think the stories that we tell online are so important for people to feel as though they understand what the fragrance smells like, where it takes them, what kind of mood it creates. I think the beauty of Jo Malone London is the gifting side of the brand. I mean, buying a gift online, we make it really convenient. You can buy a gift for someone, have it wrapped, have it sent to them, even with a gift card on it. So it's easy. We make gifting easy. But I think for me, when I look at like online versus in-store, a lot of people research online before they come into store, or they use online to understand a brand, or online is very much about utility and making it easy to replenish or buy into something new. The in-store experience for me is where a brand comes to life. Yeah. You go in, you experiment, you play, you get time, you spend time there. Yeah. You get to understand a little bit more about the brand when you go into a retail environment, but it's down to the brands as a challenge to make sure that we give people a reason to come into our stores. And I think that's what retailtainment or retail theatre or whatever you want to call it is so, so important.
Yeah, I guess that's part of your role to make sure that, as I enter the store, I'm welcomed and I get, I get this full on experience.
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge amount of training that goes behind what our teams do in store. For me, the most important thing is for our staff to connect with our customers, to make them feel valued and welcomed in our stores, and to help guide you through the brand and help you discover what's right for you. Yeah. It's almost like greeting an old friend, being a really gracious host when someone comes into your store and making them feel comfortable. But
that's really nice.
I'll give you a reason to come into store, and it's got to be an experience that makes you want to come back again. Yeah. We're selling emotion, we're selling stories. Fragrance is all about emotion, memory and story. So we need to make sure that we connect with it in a very, very engaging way when you come into store.
And it's obviously, but it's a multi-sensory thing, isn't it? There's beautiful things to look at and smell, and it's definitely kind of rewards going into store.
I think so. I think so. I mean, I think it's when you come into one of our stores, it almost feels like a break from the chaos of shopping in retail in an environment that looks beautiful, smells beautiful, and makes you feel great when you leave.
Yeah. Although, as you say, talking about online, again, as a gifting thing, I think we're very good at making it easy to curate and find something. So there is, if you're buying a gift for a partner or a male, it's all there, isn't it? So.
Yeah, I mean, we can help you go into as much detail as you want to when you come in to buy a gift. It can be something that we say, right, you've got £50 to spend, you're looking for a man, this is what you want to go for. Yeah. Or we can make it completely custom depending on the person that you're buying for. So I think that's the beauty of the brand is all of our gifts are kind of custom-made gift sets. Yeah. That's something that you can come in and that when you give that gift to someone, they know that you've thought about what's going in.
And it's going to go down well.
Very much.
And that idea that everyone's welcome, I think that's important, isn't it?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah. Another thing on the podcast is as the name suggests, it's man in the mirror. So I'm really interested in the guest's sort of view of themselves and that kind of perception thing. So I wonder, when you look in the mirror when you're doing your morning routine, Chris? What do you think about the man that looks back at you?
Well, if you'd have asked me that question 10 years ago, you'd have got a very different answer. I've got more comfortable with myself as I've got older.
Right. Were you less keen on yourself then? Were you harder on yourself, do you think?
I was very much harder on myself when I was younger about the way that I looked. And I think I felt there was a lot of pressure to look a certain way. And, you know, like, you always want to be taller, you always want to have more muscles, you always want to look like him, you always want to have better facial hair if you can grow it. Yeah. You know, so I was very critical.
And you end up sort of focusing on the negatives, don't you?
Yeah, and I let the negative voices in my head kind of shout very loudly when I was younger.
Yeah.
And like that negative self-talk that I think a lot of people have. And, you know, as you get older, you learn to not listen to it as much and realise that it doesn't really matter what other people think of you if you feel comfortable about yourself. And I mean, it's a work in progress, I think it is.
Yeah.
For everybody,
I think you said it exactly right. It's finding that sense of being comfortable in yourself, isn't it? And sort of worrying a bit less. And I definitely think that, I mean, I'm older than you, but I think that comes with a bit of age, doesn't it?
It does.
Some started to give less of a shit about
in my 30s. My 20s and 30s, I cared massively about what other people thought of me. And not so much now. It's taken a lot of work to get there, you know. A lot of work to get there around kind of dealing with my own insecurities and my own mental health to make sure that I feel comfortable enough in myself to feel comfortable enough in the world, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And it's funny enough, you know, we touched on it before we started, and I've seen this in some of the posts that you do, but mental health of both the work that you can do, you know, for everyone else and in the outside world, it's a really important part.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people don't necessarily realise that we have our own mental health charity.
Right.
We raise money for it through the sale of charity candles.
Yeah, so that happens once a year.
The candles, the
candles come up.
We launch one maybe once a year, once every 18 months, but the candles are always on sale in certain countries. But it all started from this idea that we have different values that we have as a brand, and one of our core values is kindness.
Yeah.
And we actually have it kind of as a business goal for our teams.
Really?
For us, yeah. So how we integrate kindness into the way that we interact with each other.
Is that a difficult thing to? I mean, it shouldn't be, but is that a difficult thing to actually kind of, you know, thread into the sort of daily work and to kind of codify somehow?
You would think it could be quite difficult because it seems quite abstract.
Yeah.
Saying kindness as a business goal.
I mean, it sounds like of course, that's what we should want.
I mean, it's what the world should want, really.
Yeah.
Where everyone's a little bit kinder. But, you know, we've done work over the past year. We've just launched our own mental health foundation, the Shining a Light on Mental Health Foundation. And we just signed a partnership with UNICEF to work to help young people living with their own mental health challenges. And
does it donate money to that?
Yeah, we made a donation to UNICEF. I believe it was we made donations of around $2 million in a commitment over the next 2 years. So it's a sizable sum of money that we've committed to donating to help younger people dealing with their own mental health challenges. Great. We did a lot of work internally as well. I mean, personally, the brand have supported me massively when I was struggling with my own mental health last year, and I was offered counselling through work and support and all the time that I needed to deal with my own kind of mental health and anxiety issues.
That's great to hear that it's not just kind of something that feels like, you know, a kind of an idea that's all about kind of, you know, whitewashing, and they're actually kind of walking it and talking it and with the staff.
And to have a brand that we're able to have it, to feel supported by my employer when I was going through those challenges made it a lot easier for me to talk about.
Yes.
I think sometimes it can be a little bit isolating trying to talk about your own mental health and things that are going on for you.
Yeah.
To feel supported at work gave me
that's great
confidence to be able to talk about it.
And it's something we've definitely covered on the podcast before, but men, sweeping generalization, but men aren't always as good at actually kind of raising a hand and saying, I need a bit of help here. And, you know, we're getting better at it, I think. And, you know, more voices, you know, people like yourself, you know, talking about it and being honest, but that can only be a good thing because it'll help other people. And, you know, this idea of just sort of, you know, just keep calm and carry on that's not the best way, is it? And we know that.
Oh, at all. I mean, keeping it in your head is one of the most probably damaging things you can do for yourself, is keeping your own thoughts in your head. So having people that you can talk to about things and a network of people that you can reach out to and support is is the first step to being able to deal with any of those things that you've got going on. I mean,
yeah,
it's important not to be ashamed or not to be afraid.
Yeah. Well, I'm really pleased that it sounds like you're in a good place.
I am.
Yeah.
All right.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. And I wonder what are the things that make you happy?
What are the things that make me happy?
Apart from jam tarts.
Apart from jam tarts and too many cakes. I'm at my happiest when I get to spend time with my husband at the weekend.
Yeah.
When we go on holiday time.
What stuff do you like doing in your free time?
We do a lot of walking.
Do you?
Like, we live just outside of London. We've got like the North Surrey Downs near us. So like hills and beautiful areas to walk in, and just walking around, talking, spending time together is really important to me, because we both work really hard.
Yeah.
We don't really see each other through.
What does your husband do?
He works in a hospital.
Does he?
In health service, yeah. So he's on.
That's full on, right?
It is full on. It is full on. So for us to have that time together to connect and just downtime, just being outside in nature, I think is.
Is it the two of you, or do you have a dog that you can take out?
I've got 2 cats, so I can't really put them on a lead. And
just have this vision of you with a dog.
I've been trying to get a dog for 20 years, so we're gonna.
Is your husband
conversation one day?
Is he resistant?
Not so much now that it's working closer to home, but I'm still working on it. So yeah, ask me that question in a year's time, and I might have won that argument.
Oh, I hope.
Yeah,
so.
I think time with family is important, just to disconnect from the craziness of life, of working in London, of the busyness of it all, and just to be able to switch off is important.
And I guess with your role, it being a global function, there must be so much where you're either traveling or pulled in, whether it's a sort of virtual thing, or actually you must have to be out there and traveling the world. Right?
There's a lot of travel. I mean, it's been incredible.
Do you like that?
Yes, I do, because I get to visit some places that I never would have imagined visiting if I wasn't doing this job. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I was in Seoul, which is
how was that?
An incredible city. I love it there. We've got a really nice business there, a really nice team over there.
Yeah,
I get to get out and meet people, and I get to see people from all of these different places. I've launched the brand. Well, I've opened stores for the brand in many, many different countries, but I'm at a point now where the travelling's kind of. It does get a bit much sometimes, so it's nice to be able to disconnect and switch off from it.
Yeah, but it must be a real joy and very rewarding because it's we're dealing with products that bring joy, but it must be that thing of connecting with other people that have those same passions, whether it's in a professional way in the stores or customers that come in. How great to have that thing that kind of unites you as you travel the world.
I mean, going into store and talking to customers and seeing their genuine love for the brand is consistent from country to country.
Yeah,
and you can almost see it even if you don't speak the language.
Yeah,
if you're in a country and you don't
that's
speak
true.
The language, you can see the smile on people's faces when they're smelling the product and buying the product. But the thing that always makes me feel the most connection to my job and the most motivation from my job is when I see our people in stores enjoying what they do.
What, the staff? Or
Our staff in stores. When you see how passionate they are about the brand, I've not seen it in many places. There's a true connection to people that work for the brand. They are Jo Malone London as far as they're concerned.
Yeah.
So it's really, really powerful to see that connection for people that work in retail.
Yeah. And it's funny that you're talking about the kindness sort of ethos of Jo Malone London. The emails are always like super polite, but there's always such a friendly tone, and I guess it must be something that's sort of part of the training, or they just pick brilliant people. But there's such a lovely, warm tone to people, and there's a real consistency across the people I deal with at Jo Malone. So
I think it's a mixture of both. I'd like to think that we pick the right people. We pick people that are passionate for what they do and passionate for other people.
Yeah.
And then we give them the support they need to be able to be strong at what they do in their job.
Yeah. And obviously, it's a job like any other, and I'm sure some days are better than others. But you'd hope if, you get to be in environments like this in the townhouse or in one of the stores, dealing with products that bring people a lot of happiness and joy, you'd hope it kind of makes you that's infectious, isn't it? It makes you feel good.
Absolutely. And you think you spend a huge portion of your adult life at work.
Yeah.
You may as well enjoy what you do. And we're lucky enough that we work for a brand that we all adore working for.
Well, that's good.
Like you said, in this beautiful environment.
Yeah. And what, in terms of looking forward to next year, and I guess, you get to see obviously what's coming out for the brand and new launches, what sort of trends are you seeing in fragrance and gifting for next year? There's certain things coming out that we should be looking out for?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say too much about what's coming out, but we work kind of 2 years ahead.
Right, this is that far out?
Really far ahead. And there's some incredible fragrances that are launching next year.
Great.
There's 2 in particular that I'm thinking of. There's 2 fragrances that are launching next year that have got a very unique twist on quite a traditional, well, there's one in particular that's got a very unique twist on quite a traditional ages-old ingredient. So that's one to look out for. I think that's a trend that's happening in fragrance at the moment, is these fragrances have got these huge, deep, rich base notes that give them longevity, they give them substance, but they've almost been lightened and modernized. It's almost like, for me, I see it as like fragrance going through the resurgence of things that fashion goes through. You get kind of recycled things that come back again, but with a slightly different twist on them. So I think that's kind of super fascinating for me.
Oh, great. Well, you'd have to, love to have you back, and you can tell us about some of the new things next year. But God, it's scary to think that you brands are planning out for 2025, 26 already, but of course they are, because all these things take so long to develop, don't they?
They do when you put quality and a lot of work into it. There's a while in the development process that definitely brings the quality to the product.
Oh, Chris, thank you so much for your time and for hosting me here at the Townhouse this afternoon. And I'm going to mention some of the products that you talked about in the program notes so people can find out more about, obviously, the Christmas range, but everything that Jo Malone does. So thanks for your time, and lovely to see you.
Thank you.
Huge thanks to Chris for spending time with me this morning. And in fact, thanks to the whole Jo Malone London team at the Townhouse. They were so helpful and accommodating when I was doing the podcast, so I really appreciate it. I hope it came across. I mean, it was certainly clear to me how much Chris loves his role and loves the job at Jo Malone London. And I guess who wouldn't, getting to travel the world and, work as an educator with all the in-store teams at Jo Malone London. But, I was really struck by that wide-ranging nature of that conversation, and particularly actually what Chris was saying about mental health. Both, what the brand does externally, I suppose, with shining a light on children's mental health, the work they do with UNICEF and the charity candles, but equally, how they support their own staff. And it was great to hear how Chris felt supported when he was having his own mental health struggles, and how the brand helped him. So that was really great to hear. On a lighter note, obviously talking about Christmas, now it's November, and all the great things that the brand has in store. There's the Ginger Biscuit Cologne. For men, there's the Mr. Malone Luxury Collection. There's a whole kind of gingerbread theme, so you should definitely check it out on the website. There's so many great gifts for the loved ones in your life, but if you want to get something for yourself, you should definitely have a look at Jo Malone London this Christmas. If you want to find them on Instagram, it's at Jo Malone London. And on the web, it's www.jomalone.co.uk. And of course, if you're lucky enough to live anywhere near an actual Jo Malone London shop, it's the perfect time of year to go in store and find the perfect gift or find something for yourself. If you want to find out more about Man in the Mirror, I am on Instagram at Man in the Mirror Pod. And you can find out more information about previous episodes, previous guests, and I'll tease what's coming up in future episodes. And I'd love you to subscribe to the podcast if you can, or give me some stars or reviews. I'd really appreciate it. So thank you to Chris, and thank you to you for listening. And I'll see you next time on Man in the Mirror. Take care.